It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tung Chan, who will give today's Convocation address. Dr. Chan arrived in Canada at age 22. While learning English and waiting tables, he put himself through his Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of British Columbia. He later went on to complete a General Management Diploma from the Institute of Canadian Bankers. Dr. Chan is currently the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21, a member of the board of the Vancouver Foundation, the Laurier Institute, and the Canadian Foundation of Economic Education. In the past, he has been a councillor and deputy mayor of the City of Vancouver, manager of a Royal Bank branch, vice president of the TD Bank Group, and district vice president of TD Canada Trust. He was Chief Executive Officer of Success and has volunteered in leadership positions at numerous civic, cultural, business, and educational organizations. Dr. Chan has received the Queen Elizabeth Golden Jubilee Medal. The Diamond Jubilee Medal, is a member of the Order of British Columbia, has been appointed an honorary captain in the Royal Canadian Navy, and has received an honorary Doctor of Laws degree from University Canada West. Please extend a warm welcome to Dr. Tung Chan.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, platform dignitaries, and graduates. Every time when I hear wonderful introductions like this, I thought to myself, why shouldn't I just have it recorded and play it to my mother-in-law? Because every successful man, there is behind him a surprised mother-in-law. I've been asked this afternoon to share with you the story of how someone like myself, coming to this country speaking very little English, has almost no money, can do so much. The fact of the matter is, but for the grace of God, I could have been living in a homeless shelter somewhere downtown East Side. I thought of myself being totally very, very lucky. But you know what? In my definition, in my dictionary, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And along the way, I have aged well. I've also picked up a few PhDs, and I've learned also the philosophy of living like a tree. Now, I'll explain all that later. As mentioned, I came to Vancouver in 1974 in April. The only person I knew at the time was my sister and my brother-in-law. The first job I had was waiting on tables at the Terminal City Club downtown. I grew up in a very small village in Hong Kong and had no idea of the things like beef stroganoff, steak tartare, and Wiener Schnitzel. So I would take the order, I would place the order, and I would take whatever comes out from the kitchen counter, and I served it. Soon after I started, the cook started calling me superstar because I made so many mistakes. When the cook saw me walking into the kitchen, they say, "Oh, Jesus Christ, here comes Tung." And at that time, there was a movie called Superstar, Jesus Christ Superstar. So that's my nickname. The club's dining room opened only from Monday to Friday. On Saturday and Sunday, I work in another restaurant. Why? Because I want to save up the money to go to university. Why? Because I knew that if I want to get ahead, I need to have better education. And I knew also, as a newcomer, I have to learn more about this country. Because in those 4 years, first 4 years, I never knew how the sun sets on Saturdays and Sundays. I'd be working inside. I'd be waiting on people who are out there celebrating Christmas, New Year's. So I thought the only way I can learn about this country is to go become a volunteer. So on Saturday afternoons, I go down to Chinatown and volunteer for the Immigration Service Society Success. And I was there taking healthy senior citizens to visit shut-in seniors in rest homes. And you know something? In 1990, when I wanted to run for the city of Vancouver, those healthy seniors that I volunteer with ended up being the best campaign workers I ever had. Now, UBC's arts faculty accepted me in September of 1974, same year I came here. And I decided to major in sociology. I was fed up with, unlike other people from Hong Kong or Asia, go into commerce, go into electrical engineering, and go into some other technical things. Not that I don't like them. I wanted to learn about humanity. But the true fact was, I had given up hope on business, and I've also seen how unpredictable that wealth could be. You see, I went to Holland when I was 18 after high school in Hong Kong. I was supposed to go there to study. But I didn't know that people in Holland speak Dutch. I had no idea. I was totally unprepared. I went there because a high school or childhood friend of my father had promised him that he will look after me when I get to Holland, that he will put me through school, that will pay for my education. He actually gave me a one-way ticket to Holland, and my father gave me a couple hundreds of guilders. I got there. I found out not only I did not have the academic credential to be accepted to a university, my uncle wasn't really prepared to fulfill his commitment to my father. I had no friend, had no money, no hope. The thought of killing myself, committing suicide, had entered my mind several times. But I forced myself to look at the positive side, the bright side, and to force myself to develop a sense of positive thinking. A total stranger came out of nowhere. He owns a restaurant, and he took pity on me. He offered me a job as a waiter. And so that it was, for 2.5 years, I worked as a waiter 6 days a week with absolutely no holiday throughout all that 2.5 years. 1973, I went back to Hong Kong. I saved up every single guilder I earned from Holland. I had about 30,000 Hong Kong dollars. That was quite a bit of money back then, in 73. I answered a newspaper ad in the newspaper to work as a floor trader in one of the stock exchanges in Hong Kong. The stock market was booming at the time. I had no clue, no idea of what is a beta, what is the yield of a stock, what is the price-earning ratio, none of that. All I knew was that in the morning I would go in and buy some shares and sell some in the afternoon. And I'll be making money. I also learned there is something called a margin accounts, where you can put up your stock, and the bank will lend you more money, and you buy more, you borrow more, you then put it again, and buy more. That's great. At that time, I thought my life was all set. For the rest of my life, I wouldn't have to worry about money. I could live in the luxury all through. Then the stock market crashed. Margin was called. I was back to zero, nada, zilch, nothing. I was thinking of killing myself again. But positive thinking. I forced myself to think for the better side of things, and then I decided to come to Canada. I was only 22 years old at the time. So that's why I decided not to go to commerce. That's why I want to study sociology. So first day at school, the professor came into class, a small class. I took a course that has only about 12, 13 people. He wrote down his name on the chalkboard, and then he introduced himself. I immediately stood up, and I said, "Good morning, sir," and bow. That's how I did it when I was in high school in Hong Kong. I didn't know better. Never gone to high school here, never been to university here. People thought I was crazy. So I learned that there's a lot of cultural things I need to learn. A couple of weeks in, the professor pulled me aside and said to me, "Tang, you never participate in any of the discussions. How come? Why?" And I had to confess to him that, I hardly can follow what was being discussed. And in a few times that I wanted to say something, I just don't know how to say it. My English is so poor, I couldn't say it. And we were, in that class, assigned books to read. It's an Arts 1 program, liberal Arts 1 program. It carries 9 units. That 9 units include English, history, and philosophy. We were reading books like Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, Stuart Mill's On Liberty, Machiavelli's The Prince. Had no clue. I didn't know what the books were all about. But Professor Murray Smith was very, very generous. He says, "Tang, understand, don't worry. Why don't you go to take English 099? That's not even English 100. That's the one that is pre-English 100 courses." So I knew at the time that I really, really have to learn and improve my English. For the first year at UBC, I did not talk to anybody who speaks Chinese. I hang out at the international house and I'd make friends with others like myself who were struggling to improve their English. On the advice of the English teacher at English 099, Ms. Mary Stout, I started to listen to CBC News, and also tried to repeat after the newscaster. So if you notice that I have a kind of radio voice, now you know why. When I graduated, I found work as a management trainee at TD. I was determined to do an excellent job. TD has something called Manual of Operations. It has 9 volumes, each one as thick as a phone book. And between all of them, it covers everything on how to run a bank branch. I read through every single menu of them, cover to cover. And in some sections, I actually have to read it several times, because that's the only way I can understand the content. And in 2 years, I was promoted from a trainee, from an assistant in a small branch, to a district branch in Kelowna. I was very happy. And I knew at the time that I had to improve my human relations with the staff. You see, every Thursday night, the staff would go out. It's called a banker's night. we'll go into bar and pub, and we'll buy a drink, and we start taking turns, telling jokes. Now, not only I didn't have any jokes to tell, a lot of times I didn't even know why the jokes are funny. But in order to fit in, I laugh anyways. It worked out okay. It worked out okay. Until one night, I was laughing my heart off like everybody else, and the fellow sitting next door to me leaned over and says, "Hey, Tang, what's the punchline?" I had to come clean. I told him that I didn't know what the punchline was. I was so embarrassed, totally embarrassed. And I decided right there and then that I am going to develop a sense of humor and learn to tell jokes. One day, about 6 months into the job in Kelowna, the branch manager called me in. He says, "Tang, you've done really well. Every bi-monthly staff meetings, you're well prepared, you know exactly the content, and so great. I was on cloud nine. I was so happy." Until he says, "Well, Tang, the staff told me," he says, "they could understand only half of what you said. You see, my accent was so heavy, and my syntax was always wrong, that the staff couldn't understand. I couldn't understand." So I thought I was going to be fired. He says, "No, Tang, you're a good guy. You know what you're talking about, even though we don't understand what you're saying. Go join the local Toastmasters club." So I did. The fact that I can stand in front of you making a speech like this and comfortable, that's because all the public speaking training I received at the Toastmasters club. As a matter of fact, throughout my entire career, and you can even think of those successful people that you have met, I have yet to meet anyone who are successful, who are not able to communicate clearly and have good public speaking skills. And throughout my career, I've always tried to be true to myself, to the point where I refused to anglicize my name into Tom or Tony. But I'm not so stubborn that I wouldn't try to do my best to reduce my accent. In fact, I have taken courses on accent reductions, so that now at least I know the difference between a long A and a short A. And I know to avoid things like when I tell someone, particularly a lady, that I'm going to go to bat for her. I wouldn't say that because she might have thought of other things. But now, you're probably wondering, "Hey, Tang, what do you mean at the beginning that you talk about you age well and that you pick up a few PhDs?" Well, let me tell you, age for me stands for authentic, generous, and excellent. I've tried to be authentic to myself, generous to others, and try to do an excellent job whatever I do. My PhDs are positive thinking, humorous determination, or the ability to do public speaking, P, hardworking, H, and dedication, D. But what about the living like a tree philosophy? I retired early at age 55 from the position of vice president with TD Bank to become the CEO of Success, a social service organization. My total compensation dropped by 75%. And yet, I gave back half of my first 2 years of service of my salary to Success. Some people thought, "Tang, you're stupid." But I look at how a tree lives its life. It would take only what it needs from the environment. It would take carbon dioxide that's harmful to people and give back to the air, to the environment, oxygens, where it's beneficial to other lives on the planet. Don't you think? That is how we should all live. So on this important day of your life, I'd like to wish you all age well, pick up a few PhDs on your way, and live like a tree.
Dr. Chan, thank you very much for that inspiring address. On behalf of Langara College, President Trotter would like to present you with a small gift in appreciation of your excellent remarks and for the time that you have spent with us today.